when Donald Trump came to power, he had invoked the NSS, the National Security Strategy, precisely for handling narco-terrorism. The planning in process was highly orchestrated. It was 6 months down the line where we had ground forces intelligence, the CIA operatives on ground giving the HUMINT. The classic case of the satellite technology was employed. We had the complete airspace coordination and suppression of air defenses with the might of the US Air Force. There was a naval blockade right outside waiting for the actions to take place. And, airlift moment, Nicholas Maduro. The surprise is no longer expected. This is how the operations are being carried out today. And no country believes now in surgical strikes. This was absolutely fused high-tech intelligence and coordinated, I would say, operational brilliance from the Indian Armed Forces, very well orchestrated by the Joint Air Command Control Center. The use of high-tech machinery of Rafale, the Mirage is going in, the BrahMos firing, laser designated, the Garuds were there, the Para-SF, and also the the NSD. The territorial armies, I think we'll have to take a strategic mind shift now. Now they started what is now probably being seen in Sindoor. Operation Sindoor probably was an instructive lesson from post-Russian-Ukraine war, where the drone warfare came into.
The way American forces moved their commandos in dead of the night into Venezuela's capital Caracas and arrested President Nicolas Maduro has few parallels in military history. India too surprised Pakistan by launching precision missile strikes at multiple targets during Operation Sindoor. We have with us today a war veteran, Col MV Shashidhar, who has been a columnist with Indian Masterminds on military strategies. Let's go across to him to discuss war theaters and changing war tactics across the world. So a very warm welcome to Indian Masterminds, Colonel Shashidhar.
Very good morning, Sharadji. It's been a rare privilege to join you on Indian Masterminds today, leading digital platform, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. I wish you all a very happy New Year.
War theater. You have been in Kashmir. You have seen military strategies from a very close quarter. So that's why I wanted to discuss the changing war scenarios in the world with you today. And the latest incident being the arrest of President Maduro of Venezuela. The way it was handled by US with very precision strike. So how do you do that? Means how much time does it take to plan those strikes, and how do you execute by preparing plan A, plan B, plan C? So how do you describe that?
Okay, let me begin by saying, how this, the strategy world over, or how the employment of military has changed, from the time when the US led Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan, or the Iraqi Freedom, where the conventional wars was the norm, and regime change was the order. Now there's a marked shift in the employment of military, wherein they moved to targeted raids and precision warfare. I think that's what your question is about.
Yeah.
So now what we are seeing today in the world order is, something where a world has been reshaped into episodic and high impacted actions, where surprise is now the norm or is not a spectacle. Precision is the order of the day. Now, coming to the classic case of the decapitating of Nicolas Maduro and his, midnight, I would say, attack by the US forces at Caracas and taking him out of Venezuela, was a plan in action which has been, a long process under the US doctrine, because to remove Maduro from power was one of the actions which past governments have been trying. And incidentally, I think, the dawn of 2026, we have really seen what is called the dawn action, the Donro doctrine, which is actually probably now done it. This has been actually a case where in 2025, when Donald Trump came to power, he had invoked the NSS, the National Security Strategy, precisely for handling narco terrorism. And USA in the past, if you recollect, have been trying to take out Nicolas Maduro or putting a lot of restrictions, economic blockades, and sanctions. The past government I think had started off by putting about $25 billion, like Joe Biden. The Trump 1.0, I think, escalated to about 40 million. Now, present government put at $50 million. Finally, the planning in process was highly orchestrated. It was 6 months down the line where this was what is called fuse high-tech intelligence coordinated action, where we had ground forces intelligence, the CIA operatives on ground giving the HUMINT. The classic case of the satellite technology was employed. We had the complete airspace coordination and suppression of air defenses with the might of the US Air Force. There was a naval blockade right outside waiting for the actions to take place. And, airlift moment Nicolas Maduro was, captured. And the low ingress into the Caracas, city of Caracas, late night, and how the Delta Force went in. So these were all very highly coordinated actions, which therefore indicates, I think I wrote in my featured article, where now precision is the norm. The surprise is no longer respected. So this is how the operations are being carried out today. And no country believes now in surgical strikes because it has got a prohibitive cost around it.
So when US deployed its naval ships very close to Caracas, so how could Venezuelan forces could not anticipate that this was coming?
The US forces, if you see, have been having firstly the economic blockades done, sanctions were laid. They had carried out what is called the Southern Spear operation in the Caribbean Sea with the biggest, aircraft carrier, USS Gerald Ford was deployed. And they were waiting, and there was, I would say, indication in the air that something sooner or later going to happen. But what really took everyone by surprise was probably the carnival, the New Year Eve break, the holidays. People were taken absolutely by surprise. See, in precision warfare, surprise and deception are the most important tools.
Similarly, when India attacked Muridke and other cross-border targets during Operation Sindoor, so after this Pahalgam attack, wasn't Pakistan anticipating a strike, and were they prepared?
That's another good question, Sharajina. I would like to, again bring back to what, is the level of executive action and what is the threshold where the top man in the country is looking at, and how the politico-military dynamics play out. In the past case, where if you let me take you, a memory back down the lane, where we had President Obama when we had Operation Neptune Spear, when they took out Osama bin Laden. Okay, that was 9/11. It almost took a decade for him to press into the action. It was he was more resilient, multilateral, leaving it to the military state or the security deep state to work out, and then finding answers. But here now with now there comes the personality at the top. Donald Trump in the case of US, and we have Narendra Modi here, where we have the executive power or the decision makers who said, what is the threshold? Like in the case of India, we said any act, terrorist act on military or the civilians will be treated as an act of war. So therefore, we went in What took everyone by surprise was within the fortnight of what happened at Pahalgam, this was absolutely fused high-tech intelligence and coordinated, I would say, operational brilliance from the Indian Armed Forces, very well orchestrated by the Joint Air Command Control Center. This was action to so deliberate, planned. The sheer swiftness and timing, I think, is what caught the Pakistanis by surprise.
Yeah, but they were anticipating, weren't they? That after Pahalgam, India might attack because there was a lot of noise about that.
What would happen was the ceasefire was lifted. They could have probably thought artillery shelling could happen. We had a case of where after the surgical strike went in 2016 post Uri attacks, we had the 2019 Balakot. But in this case, they although they should have been prepared, but what was surprising was how swiftly we acted and put the entire defense orchestrated machinery of Pakistan into a limbo. What had happened was the absolute, I would say, negation of the air supremacy. The airspace was taken over. Okay, we had very well orchestrated satellite and drone imageries with us, and the standoff attacks is what surprised, because earlier in surgical strike we had certain elements putting boots on ground across the international border or the line of control. Balakot was I would say, an air action. Here, it was absolute standoff attacks with high levels of missile coordinating and use of high-tech machinery of Rafale, the Mirage is going in, the BrahMos firing, laser designated, the Garuds were there, the Para-SF, and also the the NSD were all doing target designation. So this was something, a new norm, a technology enabler, which now probably India has realized this is going to stay for a long time. This sort of cooperation, precision warfare, and standoff attacks will pay much more dividends, and world will take up notice.
So the first thing India attacked was their air defense systems and their runways.
That's right.
So that's how
that's right. Absolutely. If you go back into the attack of Operation Sindoor, night 6-7, we directly targeted 9 of the terrorist camps. The Jaish-e-Mohammed camp and the LET camps at Murid Kenbar. Followed by, we took out their Rahim Yar Khan and Noor Khan base, because that's where the entire command infrastructure and the air takeoff potential was now neutralized. So they went blind. And we also had a great system of, I would say, the Sudarshan Chakra and all those things which are employed. This was the first time where I would say India as a country has the potential to showcase to the world what sort of brilliant action we can do at a short time frame.
Yeah, but Pakistan was being backed by, say, Chinese artillery, Chinese arms and armaments, weaponry. Besides, they also had some of US Air Force weapons and aircrafts, including F-16 and so still they could not surprise us. They tried to retaliate, but we anticipated all these attacks and we repulsed, and not a single drone could land on Indian soil.
Yeah, that I would say is a point which I think is a case of marvel by which the Indian, the top brass, the military heavyweights, the Integrated Air Command Control Center employed. We were absolutely prepared. What was there? The clinical execution, the unified operational execution with all the integrated airspace control, the standoff attacks, the surveillance system. What played a great role was ISR, strategic ISR. That was one of the big takeaways in this Operation Sindoor. What had happened was, moment let's say the S4 got deployed, I think it's the longest kill record they have. They targeted an AWACS of the US 315 kilometers, and they went blind. On the night of 6-7, we took out with the BrahMos, their runways and their communication nodes were struck at Rahim Yar Khan, Noor Khan base. And thereafter, when we had deep strikes using BrahMos into Rafiki, their airfields, they couldn't take off. So all the Sargoda, so all these actions left them, I would say, nullified or thoroughly pulverized, because standoff attacks, they were not in a position to take on our, I would say, the standoff missile attacks. The Rafale's scalp, your Mirage bombers, okay, and the BrahMos extended range, they played a merry hell on the Pakistani airfields, and that was a big problem. And they hit the comm centers. They hit the comm centers, thereby making them blind. Cyber attacks went in. So this was an orchestrated, I would say, precision warfare between two nuclear powers, which probably India demonstrated the upper hand. Probably I would say they've been a good student of military history, reading from various operations which are in vogue, and very successfully employed it.
So the way we conducted this Operation Sindoor, there was no need for our forces to cross the border.
Absolutely.
So that way, so do we actually need such a huge army now when the entire war is being fought in the air, in water, across border, without deploying a human?
So the territorial armies, I think we'll have to take a strategic mind shift now, because a lot of things are happening in the geopolitics domain where, like I said, the actions of high impact actions, okay, the episodic actions which happen, all revolve around such surprise and precision warfare. Therefore, as we move on, into technical and the AI domain and the fused intelligence and integrated as ISR, maybe we may have to slowly look at not only probably, I would say, downscaling the army, but then theaterizing the army, because we need to head into the Army, Navy, Air Force commands and have an orchestrated, coordinated battle.
So we have seen that in Afghanistan also. US had been deploying a lot of drones, dropping bombs on precision targeted areas, but still US could not win the war. So are these targeted strikes, they are able to say kind of eliminate a person or maybe a target, but not able to win the war for country.
That's right. The precision warfare, and I would say, unfortunately, the dynamics. You may probably win a short term action, because if you don't get a lasting peace, if you don't get a good governance, these could be short term actions to go against, say, terrorist camps or targeted attacks against any military action or a terrorist action which has taken place in their home soil or homeland. So these are all actions which are, taken on short notice, just to rally the narrative, take the public opinion, make the international opinion in your favor, and put things that way and rest. The Russians were not, actually wanting to capture the entire Ukraine per se, but they just wanted to drive home a lesson, saying that you play by the ball, this is what will happen if you don't follow or dictate. And they wanted to do these actions by, capturing a limited territory here and there. The Donbass, where they, separatist action they, created, a capture of Kyiv earlier like that. So they thought probably, Ukraine will fall in line, which unfortunately they didn't do. And what happened, the classical case was, they said it's something like the David versus the Goliath. A small nation, how they countered Russia. They said, okay, now what we have, we can probably overwhelm a superior adversary with technological enabler, technological might. And now they started what is now probably being seen in Sindoor. Operation Sindoor probably was was an instructive lesson from post-Russian-Ukraine war, where the drone warfare came into. And now they have a great area of drones. They have the drone regiments called the Nemesis. okay, where they have the AI and the data engineers part of the regiments there. And that's how they're getting the civilian people. Someone does a wonderful job on the drone front, they are inducted to the army. Today, they have more than about 8 lakh drones saturating the skies, and Russian Air Force cannot probably penetrate Ukrainian airspace. It's a marvelous case study by itself. Maybe some other day we can discuss that. But coming back to the actions of long-term attacks, I think that sort of conventional warfare period is over.
So now we also know that you were posted in Uri when this Uri attack took place. So and now since everything is out in public domain, so can you please tell us from your first-hand experience how it was being posted in Uri when the attack took place and how it was executed?
If you recall, it was the hot pursuit in Myanmar. So that probably gave us the heft to the government, to the Modi government. Okay, we've done hot pursuit. We are capable of doing it. That's where surgical strike nomenclature came first time into being. I think, if I remember correctly, Minister of State, Rajawardhan Singh Rathore brought out the term. So this, they felt, we have ISR, we have the capability. Okay, we may have to risk a bit of our troops on ground, the para commanders to move in, identify target. This time we had to cross the LC and designate those targets and then eliminate the hideouts. Now, what happened therefore was when surgical strike really went in, all operations looked very normal. Things were going on normal. Your convoys going up and down, activities going down. Traffic was maintained. Okay, people were not, not even getting an idea or afraid of idea that saying that yes, something is going to happen. Only that I would say the coordinator, the tactical command post, which was there in the forward sector in 28 Div, was monitoring directly back with the I would say the China Corps at Badami Bagh and the command headquarters at Udhampur. So they were in picture. They were getting live feeds of what's happening, what is the threshold, what is the time when our boys can move. What happened? The columns went in. There were a bit of, I would say, 3 to 4 days lag when people had to give the green signal, let's go in, because there were time for them to marry up. Took some time because I happened to meet 1 or 2 of these para commandos who came back after the surgical strike very successfully, and I happened to meet them. It was very heartening to meet them and how they went about. So there was a delayed action. That's a part of a tactical operation, because unless you marry up with your teams, you can't get the green signal and go in for a decisive strike. So rest apart, things look very normal. The civilian government and the what's happening in Srinagar, everything was normal. Obviously, to maintain surprise, any such sort of an attack has to go by night. So it went in the early hours of the morning, and it was preceded by certain I would say artillery shelling, not exactly at one fixed point, but all along the LOC frontage. So therefore, they were taken by surprise, and our aim was only to neutralize or eliminate the terrorist hideouts, and which we did successfully. And the best part was there was no casualty from our side, and all our boys came out unscathed.
I think that was a very great insight into India's military strategies and international strategies as well. So thank you very much, Colonel Shashidhar, for talking to Indian Masterminds. We'll connect again sometime else. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharaji. Thank you for giving me this wonderful opportunity, and wishing you all the very best. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. If you liked our content and presentation, please do like and subscribe to our channel. Kindly press the bell icon given below to receive notifications of our latest videos. Till then, stay curious, stay informed, and keep watching Indian Masterminds. Thank you.